Good evening and welcome along to Monday Night Football. Since there's no Sky Sports Monday Night Football, I thought why not create a wee live on the Red Tinted Glasses YouTube channel. Calum has been enjoying Leeds Festival and missed out on the 5-goal thriller at Pittodrie, so his able deputy, Phil Mair, is stepping in for his first appearance of the season. Philip, nice of you to get on the show to discuss a win and plenty of positives, because that wasn't the case last season.
Yeah, no, I think most of my stuff was doom and gloom last year during the relegation scrap, so it's a fine change.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're certainly getting value for money at Pittodrie this season because that's 3 home games, 5 goals in all the home games. So value for money on the pitch if you're not getting it in the pie stalls.
Exactly, I know where we're getting ripped off for our steak pies. Miovski's definitely making it up on the grass.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first clean sheet that we've had in that red kit. Of course, we mentioned that last week. So really enjoyable afternoon in fine weather and an unchanged team named by Jim Goodwin to face Livingston. The only change coming on the bench where Matty Kennedy came in for Christian Ramirez. Been looking for a tattoo removal artist yet?
It's going to be quite tough to cover up. There's a lot of colour there, but I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful. I've not seen any airport pics yet, so
Yeah.
you might still stay.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of red and yellow on the leg, so maybe it can be morphed a little bit into a Macedonian flag. We never know. But I thought I'd have to get that in with you coming on and him not being in the squad.
It's only fair. I've already received enough pelters for the number change anyway, so it's expected.
Yeah, well, you're a man of your word and you committed to it, so fair play for that. And I suppose fair play to Livingston as well. When you and Rankin came on the podcast on the last episode, he said Livingston would probably come up here and look to frustrate Aberdeen. And I think, Phil, it's safe to say they did that for the opening half an hour. Once again, that's 3 home games. Yes, we've ultimately had 5 goals once again, but it's that opening period that really is it cause for concern or just one of these things that we can't quite get right?
I mean, you could argue it's maybe cause for concern. I mean, the way I've looked at it is there's clearly an issue with struggling against physical teams.
Hmm.
We're quite slow in getting into the game, and we seem to struggle to deal with. For example, on Saturday, Newbley caused so much problems for the back line in the midfield. But no, I think it might just be the way that Goodwin's obviously trying to play. We're trying to play
Hmm.
out from the back, try to keep possession of the ball. So it's always going to be a slow burner. But like you say, I mean, Livy were always going to come in and make it difficult. They're a big team. They're a strong team. So I wouldn't look too much into it really. If it sort of improves over time.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, what Paul's saying in the comments there. We need to start games better, and can we score against the bigger teams? This will come on to maybe the goal scoring in a little minute. Certainly later on in the episode when we get to that point when the goals do start flowing. But I think it is a concern because probably against the teams like St Mirren, Livingston, Motherwell, with no disrespect to any of their fans who may be tuning into this episode, you do expect as Aberdeen as a home team, when Jim Goodwin says he wants to turn Pittodrie into that fortress, we should be starting games on the front foot. And there's a few people behind me in the red shed kept, the same shout. Why do we feel like we're an away side here? It didn't feel like we kind of asserted that authority that you would expect from a home side.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, no offense to teams like Livingston and Motherwell, but they're teams we should be looking to stamp our authority on. You know,
Hmm.
we're going to have the games in the season where we don't get the ball much against Rangers and Celtic, or where the possession's relatively even against Hearts and Hibs, and especially at home. We're trying to build that sort of feel good atmosphere again, and I think getting off the front foot quickly and definitely sort of trying to dominate games early on is really something we should be looking to do.
Yeah, and I suppose, we spoke about this after the Motherwell game, myself and Calum, about our weakness almost being the right hand side of our defence. And again, I think Jaden Richardson did a lot of positives, but again, that was probably in the early stages where Livingston were getting that success. And there was a bit of, in the defence in general, a bit of unease. And I think that was a bit of cause for concern for me. But the good thing, I suppose, when we get into the real depths of this episode is that this is just a little minor thing for us a minor negative to look at on the grand scheme of things, because we overcame it. Thankfully, we weren't punished by Livingston, and we will be talking about a fine 3 points overall.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, especially in the first half, both fullbacks were struggling defensively. I think second half Richardson really kind of came into his own a little bit, and had a really good second half. And even Scales and Stewart, like I previously mentioned, they really struggled with Newbley the first half hour at St. Every ball that went up to him, we were spun. So it is a little bit of a worry. Obviously, Jim Goodwin's whole mantra when he came in was to stop us shipping goals, which, other than the Motherwell game, has been sort of so far as expected. So hopefully it's just a case of, as they play more, Richardson and Coulson maybe get a bit more coaching defensively, then we'll hopefully be a bit more shored up and a little bit less wobbly.
Yeah, I suppose, about that clean sheets, that's the first time since January 2021 that we've kept 2 clean sheets in a row. So quite telling what the problem has been for us in recent months anyway. And, funnily enough, that opposition was St Johnstone and Livingston, which of course we've kept the clean sheets in this game as well. And we actually did have a hat-trick of clean sheets with Motherwell thrown in there. Johnny Hayes had a good chance to open the scoring just before the water break, which was something I didn't expect to see at Pittodrie despite the fine weather. But I thought, please, not another day like this when we were wasting opportunities, because it really was some really good build-up play, fine work from Johnny Hayes, and just got the finish all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping this isn't going to be the sort of story of Hayes' season. Obviously, he's had a couple of them now, where he's just fluffed his lines in the box. But thankfully, it wasn't one of those ones that came back to bite us. Obviously, like the Celtic game. But I think it's one of those things with Johnny now. I think he's more there as the senior player in the squad, there to coach Coulson. So I don't know if maybe that's playing more on his mind and being more of a sort of on-field mentor, and he kind of lets his head wander a bit. But it was another solid performance from him, so I'm not gonna hold it over him too much unless he misses any more sitters.
Yeah, I know. Well, he certainly made up with it with the assists later on in the game. But, you thought when that water break came about, it would give Jim a chance to kind of regroup the players, get them a bit more fired up. But that wasn't to be the case. It was Livingston that continued on the front foot. And, in Kelleros, a keeper who didn't have his best game the last time he stepped out at Pittodrie, really stepped up when it mattered with a really terrific save from Obalai, because that was when Livingston were really on top, and you felt if they'd got themselves in front. We know what Livingston can be like, tough to break down at the best of time, let alone when they would have had something to defend had that found the back of the net. So a really good, smart save from Kelleros there.
Yeah, no, it was a superb save to get himself down to his left hand side. But I was impressed with him. I mean, before he came in, I'd spoke to a couple of friends of mine who watch a lot of Championship football. Some of them are Derby fans, some of them not. And their words were, Roos was a great shot stopper, but don't expect him to do much else. And I was quite impressed. He's been coming a bit more into it. I thought the first couple of games we've seen of him, he was a bit flappy and a bit sort of hesitant, especially when coming for crosses. But I think against Livingston, a team where you've really got to kind of command your box, with the way that they play, I thought he did really, really well on Saturday.
Yeah, so did I. I think, when he was called upon on Saturday especially, he stepped up to the mark, and that's absolutely what we needed. And, like the game against Motherwell, despite being on the back foot, the game changes on one moment. And the same happened again on Saturday. Livingston sloppy, playing the ball out further back, and really good awareness from Vicente Bisauen to pounce on that opportunity on Jack Fitzwater's poor touch. And he was brought down, and it's a penalty to Aberdeen, red card to Livingston. No real complaints on the award of a penalty. Were you surprised to see a red card as well, or again that justified?
It's one of those ones where you see players booked, you see players given a red. Personally, I think there's been this whole argument past past few matches about the letter of the law, and really by the letter of the law, Vinny was in. So I think the referee really had no option. You could argue sort of double jeopardy, but no, it was. I think it was the first real time we'd kind of pressed Livi in that scenario. Quite often it was mainly just Miovski doing a lot of the pressing himself, which it's never going to be a successful press. And I think that maybe took Fitzwater by surprise, having the sudden appearance of Vasowan sort of around him. But yeah, it's I'm not complaining about it. It changed the game.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a good point about the press. It was really the first time that they were put under that little bit of pressure, and I don't know if it spooked them a little bit, but good sort of forward thinking from Vicente, and Bojan making absolutely no mistake from the spot, grabbing his 4th league goal of the season to give us, I think what I said at halftime, a rather undeserved lead. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how you take the lead. Taking the lead in at halftime gave us something to build on top of the fact that Livingston were then down to 10 men.
Yeah, I mean, Livy's one of those teams, much like your Motherwells and St Mirren's, that the longer you let them off with getting into halftime with a draw or maybe one up, the more it's just going to punish you, because they're just going to sit deeper and deeper and just play the ball long. So I think that goal was really important in changing the sort of game order in our favour, because like you say, we were under the cosh for the longest time, and I think if we had went in at 0-0, it would have been a totally different game, and I don't think it would have been half as open. Okay, maybe the 10 men kind of helped it open up a little bit, but wouldn't have been half as open if it was still 0-0.
Yeah, I agree on that. And thanks to all of you that are coming into the comments live on our YouTube channel tonight during this episode. I am making a note of some of the questions because they are more related to later on, and just keep your thoughts and opinions coming, and we will certainly get them up on screen when we need to. And on that point about halftime there, Phil, it's kind of I thought, well, Jim Goodwin made probably the goal changes his team talk slightly, because he was probably going to send a rocket up a few people with some of the performances we saw. But I still felt that, yes, 10 men, you're right there, does affect things for the second half. But it was almost like there was a few choice words for a few players, because it really did feel like an energised Aberdeen came out at the start of that second half. And 2 minutes into the second half, Bojan has a free header 2 yards out. I know he's doing really well to get on the end of the cross, but on another day we could be sitting here speaking about Bojan getting 4 or 5 goals from the game, and that was really the intensity that we saw throughout that whole second 45.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably took a little bit on from the Motherwell game. I mean, it was a pedestrian performance for the 90 minutes there. But going into halftime against Motherwell, I think everyone said the same thing. It's we're looking a bit lackadaisical in possession, and it's the same thing with Livy. Loose passes, sort of sideways, easy, safe passes, not really getting much penetration. And I think at halftime he said, "Look, you've got to step on it now, because if you don't, then even with 10 men, Livy's a team that can punish you. Like I say, they're a big physical team. They're just going to sling balls into the box at any chance." But yeah, the second half we just came out guns blazing, which was a pleasant change.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Bojan that was missing headers. It seems like Anthony Stewart's got a bit of a 50p heat, because every corner set piece that was falling to him was just bouncing in a totally opposite direction. He must have also, left Pittodrie thinking, how have I not got my first Aberdeen goal this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, both Bojan and even one or two of Stewart's were probably easier to score than to miss. But yeah, I mean, I think goals will come for Stewart, hopefully. I mean, he seems strong enough in the air despite his height. But yeah, some of them, I don't know how they ended up where they did.
Yeah, it was really quite remarkable. And for the second week in a row, Bojan, missed that chance just a few moments earlier, has a goal ruled out for offside, clearly offside this week, unlike last week against St Johnstone. No complaints around the referee for that one. But wonderful ball vision from Leighton Clarkson to feed him, and also you've got to commend the finish despite him being offside. On Leighton Clarkson, quite, certainly earned all the praise and plaudits from last week, but I'm not sure if it was positionally or just the opposition was quite quiet this weekend, and I think, for me, I felt he was being played out on the right wing by Jim Goodwin. Speaking to Jack Gill on last week's episode, he felt he was more of a number 6 box-to-box midfielder. I think Saturday showed playing him out wide is definitely not where Leighton would like to play.
No, I think he got lost in the game a little bit.
Mm.
I think I'd spoke about on Twitter a little bit. Maybe it's a physicality aspect. I find that he was kind of bullied a little bit when he did get on the ball and he was closed down. But when he's actually in possession of the ball in space, I mean, there's no doubt he's a brilliant ball playing midfielder. I don't think any of us can deny it between his strikes, this season and his passing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely was a little bit of a passenger. And I'm surprised he didn't come off earlier than what he did. Obviously took that knock in the first half. And you could see it bothered him for the rest of the game. So again, whether that kind of just threw him off, not throwing himself into challenges or, getting into too many battles. But yeah, he was a bit of a passenger at times, I thought.
Yeah, I kind of agree with, but again, I think it was the more fact he was probably in a position he's not overly comfortable with.
Oh,
But
definitely.
again, these are just minor things in the grand scheme of the game. I know people like to think I'm overly negative, but it's points that were quite glaring to see, and I guess goes back to the whole point of this squad, this team still being a bit of a work in progress. We're not the finished article, as we're still 2 days out from the transfer window closing.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you look at some of the players we've got on the bench that we've really not had an opportunity to see fully, like Duke and Morris, it'll be interesting to see how the team does come together as the season goes on, especially when you look at the competition we've got in midfield. I think that's one of the things as well. Goodwin's just got to experiment, and figure out what works best, who plays best, where, and it'll be one of those things that'll just develop as the season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was Duke that did replace Leighton Clarkson just shy of the hour mark, as you said, after picking up that knock in the first half. Clarkson did kind of limp, hobble off. But despite his impressive showing as a substitute, it was Ross McCrory that got Aberdeen the second goal. Lee Seymour in the comments saying Ross McCrory for top 3 of the goal scoring charts. It's fair to say Ross McCrory, hasn't exactly scored tap-ins this season either. He's also been up there with some good thunderbolts into the roof of the net, and Saturday was no different. And what I liked about this goal as well, yes, the finish comes from a poor clearance from a Livingston perspective. I'm sure the Livi boys will have been dissecting that on Talk Livi, but that build-up play down the right-hand side was really a joy to watch, especially that back heel from Johnny, who's, I can't really remember who he was trying to find, but it was just so aesthetically pleasing, the build-up to that second goal.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of good build-up play down our wings on Livi, and I think that was something we kind of missed in the first half at times. That's obviously where it was best to exploit them because they're such a narrow team, especially defensively. But yeah, it was some finish on his left foot as well. I think the opposite to Clarkson, where he's getting played out of position. I think McCrory is coming more into his own now that he's getting moved back into midfield and getting used less as sort of a defensive pillar. So hopefully he can just keep on improving himself really, especially going forward. I mean, I always just fancied him as a holding player, but I mean, clearly he's showing signs of being more box to box than anything.
Yeah, and he certainly knows how to finish the ball as well. And I think for me, I actually thought he finished from inside the box. I didn't appreciate until I saw Sports Scene back that it was outside the box, and actually a really good composed finish. But as I said, Duke did come on, and he was impressive. We've seen a lot of the impact he can make off the bench, not just physically in terms of kind of bullying defenders, but also that pace that he possesses. And that was really something that Joe, when he joined us on the Getting to Know You part episode we did with him around Duke, said that was the kind of role he had in Benfica B. He was better almost coming on and attacking tired defences. I don't really know if you can call this Livingston defence tired after 56 minutes, and especially Kansar, who came on at half-time. But it was him who Duke gave loads of trouble, and it was him who brought Duke down for the second penalty. Kaiser in the comments saying they were both definite penalties. And for me, again, I don't think Livingston can have any complaints about this. This was really excellent play from Duke. Drove to the byline, cut the ball back, and when he tries to cut back, his legs are taken away. I don't really see what the issue Livingston had with this decision.
No, Cancer was done for pace the minute the ball went over the top. He was never catching up, and I mean it was really, use the cliche term, it was schoolboy defending.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the first things you're told is don't dive in the box, and the first thing he did was went to ground in the box, and you know it made no sense because as soon as you seen Duke cutting back, you knew he's a way to get wiped out.
Yeah.
As soon as he cut back, so I don't know why there was all the protest around it, but no, I thought Duke really when he came on, it did change it. I mean, obviously they're playing against 10 men. But like I say, I mean, Livi's a big team. They're not exactly a quick team, like Kansar, Devlin, they're relatively slow. So I mean, if you can exploit down the wings with Beshian and Duke, you're always going to have opportunities come up.
Yeah, and one thing I quite liked was the fact that Goodwin was actually not afraid to change it early. I don't know if it was a part of the injury knock, whatever we're going to call it, to Leighton Clarkson, because Jim Goodwin never referenced it in his pre-match conference ahead of the Annan game today. So I'm not sure if he's going to be fit, but I liked how he went positive because we were 2-0 up, keep that intensity going and put really that pressure on Livingston and not just sit back on our laurels against 10 men. Really give that crowd the entertainment that we were looking for.
Yeah, no, I thought really it was, well, the bench didn't really leave you much option but to bring on attacking subs, but to go all out and bring on the likes of Duke and then bring on Duncan later on in the game, it was positive, and I think Goodwin knew that we needed a big win to kind of keep it, not keep everyone outside because nobody's offside of him, nobody's turning on him, but you've seen what the atmosphere's been like in Pittodrie so far this season. It's been totally different to what I've known it to be for the last few years. So I think, putting in those sort of dominant displays is really going to help keep him favourable and keep everybody in a good mood.
Yeah, and I suppose for those that are playing fantasy football, would have been absolutely delighted when Aberdeen got a penalty, because fully expecting Bojan to take the penalty and looking to double his tally, I should say, sorry. But selflessly gives the ball over to the little muscle boy, Vinny Bissauin, to give him the opportunity to open his account for the season. What did you make of that decision at the time? Were you surprised to see it, or were you impressed by that act of selflessness?
I was confused, in all honesty. I kind of I looked away to speak to my dad for a few minutes, and I just turned around and I seen Vinny taking the ball and thought, oh, he hasn't thrown a hissy fit and demanded the ball. I wasn't really sure what was going on, but obviously you seen by the celebrations that wasn't the case. But I think you can really just put it down to selflessness, although Miovski's probably kicking himself because he could have had a hat trick. But no, I think it was good. I think Vinny needed it. Obviously, he's been outstanding this season. He's kind of just been missing that goal in a big match. So hopefully this sort of kicks him on in terms of maybe finding the net a bit more. But yeah, I think Bojan will probably be a bit miffed he hasn't got a match ball at home now.
But yeah, probably. But I think it also shows the kind of spirit in this team. We saw, a lot of collective celebration from the team. You kind of saw that the first penalty, Bojan pointing to Vinny, probably highlighting the work he did to win the penalty. And then similarly, when Vinny scores his penalty, him pointing to Bojan to probably say thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to open my account. But there does seem to be a real togetherness, a real bond in this squad, and I think that's actually quite impressive given the high turnover that we've gone through this summer, that there is that camaraderie already at this early stage of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in all the media content the club puts out, whether it's on Red TV or on Twitter or now on TikTok, which they're on. You can definitely see that these are, well, players which are enjoying playing football, which is always a positive for getting results on the pitch. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're players which clearly get on. You know, there's no bad blood. They're all wanting each other to succeed. I think maybe because they're all here for the same reason, which is to try and move on to bigger European clubs potentially in the future.
Yeah.
But it looks like they're all definitely backing one another. You even see it when there's big challenges. I think Ramadan is always the first in to try and push someone off or square up to somebody. So it is a good thing to see.
Yeah, and there's a few of you in the comments as well speaking about the red shed. Kaiser again saying it's the best thing to happen for atmosphere, and Scotty lad as well. Saying it's making a big difference to the games, and I think you did see that. It was quite funny as well. I felt a bit sorry for Vinny because when he was stepping up, you did hear a few boos from the red shed. They were a bit almost like disappointed that it wasn't going to be Bojan getting a chance to add to his tally. Obviously, sarcastically. Not anything against Vinny directly, but there was a terrific atmosphere by that group behind the goal created throughout the 90 minutes on Saturday once again. And does attacking that red shed in the second half make a difference? Was it the fact that we were playing some good football make a difference? Both, yes, probably, but the atmosphere, I think this season, I do agree with what you said, it does seem to be much improved from the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, my season tickets in the South Stand, and seeing the scenes in the Red Shed, I was a bit envious of everyone that was in there. But it's one of those things that I think, there's been a lot of talk on Twitter and on various platforms,
Mm-hmm.
about the Red Shed and how it can improve. And I think things are starting to come together slowly
Mm-hmm.
but surely. There's still a lot that a lot of big voices who are a big part of the Red Shed have discussed and have mentioned to the club, that for various reasons, whether they're valid or not, have been sort of put on the back burner. But it's one of those things that's slowly starting to get together, and I think you can see the impact it's having both on the pitch and off the field. Everyone seems to be in good spirits. The team are clearly playing some good football, and you can see how much they enjoy jumping the railings and causing the stewards a bit of a headache. But it's always
Yeah.
good fun to see.
Yeah, exactly. And it was more good football that led to Aberdeen's fourth goal, because Johnny Hayes, who does seem to be playing some of the best football in recent seasons of his career, with a wonderful ball through to Bojan Miovski, and just what a finish. What a finish into the bottom corner. And I almost felt sorry for him because everyone's going mad and he's scared to celebrate thinking he's going to be flagged offside.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. I think someone had mentioned it. I don't know if it was on a podcast or on Twitter or where it was, but someone had mentioned that is the sort of run he likes to make, is
Mm-hmm.
that diagonal towards one of the posts and putting it back across the keeper. And I mean, clearly, obviously, he had one disallowed earlier in the game. He had one disallowed similar at St Johnstone. It's clearly
Yeah.
his bread and butter. And clearly, he is a natural finisher. I kind of had my concerns when he was coming in, thinking, tends to play on the right,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a bit more of a winger, playing in the Hungarian league. Is he really being tested, by defenders or keepers? But he's clearly got a natural knack for finding the net, and long may it continue for our sake.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose, to go on what Scotty Lad's saying there, Miovski is sheer class. I think that's a very good assessment. And if we can keep him injury free, he's going to score a barrel load for us. And someone else I've seen on Twitter say that we're really going to have to appreciate him whilst he's here, because
Yeah.
that's 6 goals for the season now, in all competitions. The more he keeps up this level of performance, because there was at times on Saturday's game that I felt he was maybe a bit anonymous, and that's through no fault of his own. I think it goes back to the point that you made about the lone striker trying to do that press. It's a difficult job for him, and I'm meaning anonymous in the sense that when we were on the back foot in that first half, he was feeding off of scraps.
Mhm.
But then you look at the second half, one through ball, just offside, goal disallowed, one through ball, beautiful finish for 4-0. There's just little moments. He doesn't need to be hugely involved in the game. You just give him that one opportunity, that one run. And okay, the Motherwell game didn't really go to plan with it, the chip over Liam Kelly, but he knows where the back of the net is, and I think 9 times out of 10 you're going to trust him to find it in that one-on-one situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think he draws a lot of parallels to the start of Ramirez's career with Aberdeen. You know, he was the same. He was playing a lone striker role, didn't really have much. You know, when we were off the ball, we struggled a little bit. But when he gets the chance, he's clearly more than capable of providing the goods. But it's one of those ones. I think he went under the radar for a lot of people because obviously no one really knew about him. Like I say, I think he was 10-1 for the Golden Boot at the start of the season, which is now starting to look like pretty good odds considering he's probably about 6-4.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like it was mentioned, if he stays injury free, I think he'll be a massive player for us this season, especially if he can just keep that hot streak going with finding the net when it's needed.
Yeah, and I think the fact that bookies are still offering, near enough 2-1 for him to score any time just now in Premiership games anyway, I wonder how quickly those odds will be put seriously down. But, in terms of the team spirit, we spoke about the penalty goals. I think that kind of was also highlighted a little bit as well. I like this comment from Angus McDandy saying Hayes is a man possessed this season, and he was when he broke through at 4-0 up, and I thought he's going to get himself on the score sheet to round off a terrific performance. But he was also trying to be quite selfless and try to square it for Miovski, maybe feeling a bit sorry that he hadn't quite got his hat-trick yet. And, when you're 4-0 up, you can kind of forgive that sort of thing. But should Johnny have been a bit selfish there and just tried to get himself on the score sheet instead?
Yeah, I think he should. I mean, a lot of his performances this season have probably merited a goal. He has ran the socks off and he has done a lot of hard graft. I can see why he cut it back.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the type of player Hayes is, and he always will be. He's a very selfless player. But yeah, I mean, I did think once it never made its way to Miovski, I thought you could have just belted it. Surely you could have just belted it. It's your left foot after all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if it had ended up in instead of the red shed, everyone
Well,
would have said, "Why did you not square it?" But
damned
that's
if you do, damned if you don't.
yeah, exactly. The joys of being a football fan. We can do it either way. But as you said, you mentioned about changes. I quite like again how Calum's not on here to discuss a fine performance from Vinny Bizawa and the fact that Jim Goodwin finally made 5 changes after all his ranting on previous episodes. And Hayden Coulson again looked impressive in that left back slot, picked up a slight knock that saw him come off and give Jack McKenzie some minutes under his belt. But we also saw Ryan Duncan get similar minutes as well. And what a way to cap those minutes by grabbing your first senior goal for the club you've supported as a boy. What a special moment for Ryan Duncan.
Yeah, no, I was chuffed for him. I mean, him and his family stay not far from my auntie's, so I used to have a quick kick about with him when he was about 8 and running rings around me. But no, I mean it's always great to see somebody living out your dream. You're never at all envious. But no, was delighted for him. Was most likely a cross, but I mean, not many people can say they've scored for Aberdeen at 18. So fair play to him.
Yeah, and despite Matty Candy shamelessly trying to steal the goal off of him as well. Don't know if it flicked a loose hair strand of Matty, but definitely Ryan's goal. And maybe not how he dreamed scoring his first goal, but to be honest, if my first goal for Aberdeen was, similar to Darren Mackey and Alan Coombe off the back of my head, I wouldn't care.
I would take it. Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely, all day long. We usually do the memorable moment feature on the show, and despite Cam's absence, it's no different. I'll start with you being the guest on the show, Phil. What is your memorable moment from the 5-0 win over Livingston?
See, it's torn between two. I was going to go for Ryan Duncan's goal, just because it was a nice feel good moment for him. But for me, it was really just the scenes in the red shed.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, not only was there unity in the red shed, but there's unity on the pitch, and it was just good to see things coming together. And like I say, seeing the players sort of react to the appreciation they were getting and sort of appreciating the support from all of you behind the goal. Yeah, it was good. It was a nice memorable atmosphere. No, it's not very often my dad's singing along at the football, but even he was joining in at times next to me.
Yeah, that is a great quote, by the way. I'm definitely using that on the Twitter page to advertise the episode. Thank you very much for that soundbite. I was actually torn between two as well. The classy play and finish for the fourth goal was really what I was wanting to go for, because I just love a goal like that. Split the defence wide open, and just the confidence to put it in the way. It just goes into the bottom corner as well. But I think when you see an academy player come through and manage to break into the team, a local lad scoring his first goal for Aberdeen at home, something me and you would have loved to do, probably
Yep.
dream about. Well, I still dream about scoring for Aberdeen at night. I'm not afraid to admit that. I think for me, it's got to be Ryan Duncan scoring for Aberdeen, getting that fifth goal to really seal the victory.
Yeah, no, it was one of those ones that everybody loves to see. I'd seen somebody on Twitter saying that his mum was sat a few seats or a few rows down from him, and she was tears of joy. And I'm pretty sure his dad was in the Pittodrie bar, and he'd missed the goal because he wasn't at the game, and he was all crying and all joyful. So it's one of those things that even if that was the goal that only made it 1-0, and it was a scrappy cross come shot, I think everyone would have went away feeling in good spirits if that was the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So not only have we got loads of goals to talk about on the show today, but we also had another clean sheet, and I think that's also just as important as getting the goals, because, as I said, first back-to-back clean sheet since January 2021. The defence, Stewart, Scales, Coulson, Richardson, even Calarosa, we already highlighted that important save. They're going to take a huge amount of confidence from it. Yes, they weren't really tested much in the second half, as we said, circumstances dictated that with a red card, but they did have a really testing opening half hour. And we saw how in the Motherwell game, one kind of lapse in concentration, one slip cost us a goal. There wasn't really that against Livingston. They did stay focused despite the pressure. So, that back five, to include Calarosa in there, will be really happy with their performances from the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, one thing defenses thrive off of is consistency, and I think this is looking like it's going to be consistently our back five, as you put it, including Roos.
Mm-hmm.
So the longer they get time together, the more clean sheets are just going to naturally come. But I think it will do a lot for their confidence. So hopefully it's just a case of sort of making sure those sort of scrappy errors which you've seen all too often last season don't sort of reappear. Which I think won't be likely. I mean, Scales has looked classy on the ball, and Stewart's clearly shown himself as good at organising the back line. And I think because Roos hasn't really made any mistakes at all this season, I think having somebody behind you that you're confident in also is probably going to help the back line as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad, Angus McDandy, that you still dream about scoring for Aberdeen, and you're way older than me as well. That makes me feel a lot better as well. But Phil, 2 wins in a row, and it's back to cup action. We're back to the Premier Sports group stages, knockout stages. So this is the joys of doing live podcasting. It is the long trip to Annan on Tuesday night as the Dons head to Galabank to take on League 2 outfit Annan Athletic. There's been a lot of talk on Twitter today and yesterday as well about whether or not we should be making any or some changes for the game tomorrow night. Obviously, Annan playing on a plastic pitch as well. We saw some knocks picked up to both Hayden and Leighton in Saturday's game. What's your kind of sense of feeling ahead of the game on going with a strongest possible 11 versus making changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody would love to play their strongest 11, 100% of the season. But I think in a game like this, I think it's a good opportunity for us to make some changes. I think obviously, like you say, Hayden and Clarkson are both going to be probably not going to play. I mean, it's not worth the risk. I'd also probably argue Hayes might not play.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'd be a good chance to see the likes of Morris, see the likes of Duke maybe getting in from the start, seeing how he can affect a game.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Duncan, I think he's probably earned a start. Obviously used to playing against that level of opposition as well from his time at Peterhead. So Yeah, I would say you'd want to make some. Obviously, don't totally overhaul the squad and make 11 changes, but you know the areas where changes are probably going to benefit you in terms of resting legs and preventing knocks going into the weekend, and then Rangers next week.
Yeah, Ross County next week. Well, Ross County the weekend, sorry.
Yes, and then
But
Rangers
Rangers the week after. Yeah, no, you're right. Rob, hopefully that answers your question about whether or not we think there'll be wholesale changes tomorrow night, or will we go with our strongest team and keep the positives going? Because I think, well, I hope we've learned the lessons from that Wraith game the last time we did kind of make changes and kind of rested on our laurels. I think I said today that I would rather, start some of the strongest players and then take them off if the game allows. I'll keep the word "if" in there for the time being. And I think the point that Jeff makes: will the plastic pitch affect the selection tomorrow? I think it will. The likes of Hayden, he's had an ankle injury, obviously, before he came back against St Johnstone. Will that knock that he picked up on Saturday affect it? We've always seen in previous people with those kind of sort of knee ankle injuries, if they were long-term sufferers from it, tend not to often play. If this could also be an opportunity to bleed some more minutes into Jack McKenzie, maybe do 45 minutes about for both of them. I don't think there would be many that would have any qualms about Jack McKenzie starting the game in place of Hayden. And I think there's been a few of you in the comments as well that have been shouting for Ryan Duncan to possibly start as well. And again, if he was to start in place of Leighton Clarkson, or the likes of Duke, maybe to start in place of Leighton, again, probably not too many qualms on that either.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think everyone wants to see likes of Duke, likes of Duncan, getting in from the start, seeing how they affect a game. And I think, no disrespect to Annan at all, but it's the sort of games where you are going to make your changes, and you're most likely not going to see, like you're saying, Matty Kendi. He's notoriously had those sort of niggly injuries that are difficult. So I wouldn't see him really start, and he might come on for a little bit. I think it'll be interesting. Like I say, I think Goodwin's still got a lot of players to experiment with and see what works. So it might be the prime chance to do that. Maybe change up the formation. Try out 3 at the back, 5 at the back, whatever sort of model he maybe looks to use as a backup to the 4 at the back. So I think it'll be interesting viewing regardless. And hopefully we don't make a meal of it and make it difficult for ourselves.
Yeah, and just one more then, just for you. Nobody's mentioned it in the comments, but it was something I was thinking about earlier. Would you change the goalkeeper ahead of tomorrow's game?
I'd be inclined to say yes. I think, Joe's had us run out the team. It'd be nice to see him back in the goals. But again, Roos has done nothing wrong in terms of being dropped. I think it's more just, to give Joe a run out and let him have some minutes. Hopefully, if we do win the cup, he'll get a medal for it. So
yeah,
want to be fair.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree about changing the goalkeeper. Sometimes you see a cup goalkeeper in these sort of competitions, but then I'm also wary that we've had 2 clean sheets, and we would want to continue building that confidence and feel good factor in the defence. So I think we'll end up just continuing with Calaros in goals. But again, it goes back to the point that nobody would be disappointed at whoever starts in goals, both more than capable, I'm sure, for a game like this as we look to take another step towards Hampden. But I caught up with Annan Athletic goalkeeping coach John Connolly to get the view from the Annan Camp ahead of tomorrow night's fixture. So let's hear more now from my chat with John. John, welcome along to Red Tinted Glasses, goalkeeping coach at Annan Athletic. Great to have you on the show to give us an insight ahead of Tuesday night's game.
Thanks very much for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm probably very excited at the prospect of what I'm sure is set to be a sellout crowd at Galabank on Tuesday. Obviously, you guys earned your right to face Aberdeen after a very successful group stage campaign, going unbeaten, including a respectable draw over 90 minutes against St Johnstone and then beating them on penalties.
Yeah.
What do you put down to that success that you guys had in topping your group?
I think hard work, to be honest with you. Boys went in with a good attitude, and we knew it was not going to be easy against the mostly full-time teams in our section, so we had to work hard. They would say they're more gifted players. We've got a few of our own, but our hard work and being in a good shape and just sticking to what the gaffer was telling the boys got us through it.
Yeah, I suppose that's going to be key come Tuesday night as well. Do you think the players will have learned, a lot from the game? If we take St Johnstone in particular, they'll gain confidence for that ahead of the game on Tuesday night?
Absolutely. So I say when you play against your Premiership clubs, we've got a lot of young boys in the team as well who would have learned a lot from that game. We've got experienced boys who will help the young boys who have played in big games before. It's all about, for our point of view, we'll need to be very, very patient and disciplined and try and keep a tight shape. And the longer it goes on 0-0, the pressure then becomes on the Premiership team. As I say, we have nothing to lose. Everybody's got us beat before a ball's kicked, which suits us down to a T.
Yeah.
So as longer we keep it 0-0, the pressure then switches on the Premiership team.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what's making me nervous about an away tie to a lower league team that is always going to be the pressure is on us. But I'm definitely looking forward to getting down to Galabank and ticking another stadium off the list as well. But unfortunately for you guys, the success from the League Cup hasn't really transpired into the league. Sitting ninth, we're recording this the Friday night before you guys travel to Albion Rovers at the weekend. Just been one win in the league so far. Has it been a struggle transferring that form from the group stages into the league, or has it just been a bit of hard luck?
It's a bit of both. Frustration more than anything, knowing you could call it the old hangover maybe.
Yeah.
I think maybe the expectation is on us to do well and to be the top team maybe got on us a wee bit. I don't know, it's just a mixture of everything, I would say. Wee bit of hard luck in games as well. We haven't particularly played really, really bad. But on the flip side, I don't think we've done enough to win the games that we've lost, if I'm being brutally honest about it.
Yeah.
But again, I could just call it hangover, but I've got every belief in this squad of players. They're a good bunch. As I say, the League's Cup section just showed that, the Premier Sports Cup, that if they work hard together, the rewards are there.
Yeah.
And we've seen it. Just hoping it turns around a wee bit. We've been unfortunate with a couple of injuries here and there as well, but that's the same as every team's got to get that. It's just up to the other boys that step in to make their mark.
Yeah, I suppose maybe the win in midweek over East Kilbride, albeit I know on penalties, but look, a win's a win no matter how it comes, especially in a cup competition. I suppose you'll just be hoping that that's maybe that kickstart, certainly for your league campaign, looking ahead to the weekend. Albion Rovers, boys, I'm sure wanting to be in that starting 11 for when Aberdeen come to town, you'll be hoping that works in your favour.
Yeah, that's the carrot there, right there's a Tuesday night game. Boys will want to get into that game tomorrow as we're speaking and get themselves in the team for Tuesday, make it hard for the gaffer to drop them. But again, I think Tuesday night showed us what happens when we work hard. Were we flowing and great? I wouldn't say so, but we worked hard and we got our rewards, and that it was good to see that back again. And hopefully this has turned a wee corner.
Yeah, especially when your goalkeeper's 2 for 2 in penalty shootouts as well. That'll be something to watch. I'm sure those a goalkeeping coach are more surprised at the goals he's scoring as well as performing at the right end of the pitch.
To be fair, on Tuesday, I says to even the United game, I says to the gaffer, we actually do it in training. We do it as a wee warm up, hit penalties, and he has hit them before with like Sister and Ryan stuff. So he has scored before, and being an older player in a young squad as well, an experienced player, it's a no-brainer for me. He goes up and takes one, and he has a cool head, and you can always rely on him to save. I'll look for a minimum of 1 or 2 off him in a penalty shoot because he's good at them.
Yeah. What is the mood like in general? Obviously, again, we're recording this on Friday night. Are minds maybe drifting a little bit to Tuesday, or is there full focus just now at the weekend and then
Albion Rovers
a bit of excitement for Tuesday, I suppose?
To be fair, Aberdeen, no disrespect, but the Aberdeen game's not even been mentioned due to probably the poor results we have in the league. So Albion Rovers games is our main focus just now. So everyone's into that, and then obviously Tuesday night takes care of itself. It's an easy game to get up for.
Yeah,
but it's again, we touched on earlier on. If boys are out there tomorrow trying to get a jersey for Tuesday as well, so if it is in their mind, it will be in the mind of they need to go out and produce tomorrow to make sure they're in that starting 11 for Tuesday night.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, a sellout away end, making the trip down south, a good 4 or 5 hour trip for those travelling from the northeast. What's the mood like in Annan itself? Is there excitement around this tie? I assume it's going to be a sellout from the home end as well. Yeah,
there is. As I said, even last night, looking around, you've got the Portaloos have all been delivered to facilitate the Aberdeen fans in the away end and stuff, and they've laid out extra space for people to get out. So the moves have been made by the club to go and make sure that the Aberdeen fans are facilitated. But for a player's point of view, for the town, it's great to have one of the top clubs in the country down in a sellout crowd. It's what all the boys want to play in. It's what the clubs wants to be in part of as well.
Yeah, and you played Rangers last year. Do you think the players will have learnt from that experience as well? Obviously a home game against a big club and the sort of crowd and experience that will bring as well.
Absolutely. Everybody that watched that game will know, as I seen, first half, I'd say first 20 minutes were a wee bit, I think the boys were a wee bit off it. But after that, as I say, even getting into half time, the manager got them organised and settled. And we done anybody that watched the game second half will notice that we've done ourselves a lot of justice. We try to play football. We weren't just got to sit with 11 men behind the ball and hope for the best. We try and have a goal. We'll try and play the right way as well. So, no, we've learned a lot from that. And obviously, the cup section at the start of the season there with St Johnstone and stuff, there's a lot of discipline in playing Premiership clubs. So, it's a good thing for the boys.
Yeah, it sounds like, you guys know what's required, hard work, discipline. And I suppose, some people will also think that this game you'll have a slight advantage with the pitch. I'm not going to make excuses because we've got plastic pitches in the Premiership, of course, at Kilmarnock and Livingston. But given the fact that you guys train there on a regular basis as well, do you think that does have any bearing on the game as well, the fact that you have that plastic pitch?
I'll be brutally honest, I hope so. I hope so. As I say, it's a long travel for Aberdeen all the way down to a plastic pitch, so I'm hoping that everyone is against yourselves, if I'm being brutally honest. But it's just been relayed, it's just a new pitch. The club have done well. The Rangers tie last season obviously facilitated for that to happen, so it'll be a good thing for Aberdeen as well, because it is a brand new pitch and it is really, really good.
Yeah, and I suppose, it will be a long journey. And like I said, we're recording this on Friday night. So obviously Hayden Coulson's come back into the squad last weekend against St Johnstone. Obviously had picked up an ankle injury. Maybe it'll be interesting to see those players that do have knocks and niggles. Are they risked on the plastic ahead of next weekend's game against Ross County? And I suppose it depends again what the result is this weekend. Is there going to be extra pressure on Aberdeen or extra expectation depending on how the game goes against Livingston this weekend? But I was speaking to Ben Carmichael, an Annan fan, who gave me a few players to look out for. One of them, of course, is the man you coach, Greg Fleming, not just because, as I said, he's 2 for 2 in penalties this season, but purely down to his experience, nearly 100 appearances with Peterhead, Premiership experience with Gretna Stranraer as well, under his belt as well, what you said earlier. Yeah. I think you're probably expecting a busy night for Greg, but from an Annan point of view, you'll be hoping that he continues that form he had in the group stages.
I wouldn't say it's just the group stages, to be honest with you. Greg's been, in my opinion, the best keeper in League 2 last season. And he's just get better this season, which is, I think it's just older he's getting, the better he is. He's a lot sharper. He's been outstanding in league games. He's been man of match in 2 league games so far this season, which speaks volumes. And obviously the penalty shootouts, you've got a chance with Greg there. So, no, I wouldn't say it's been this season. Greg's been outstanding. His experience is invaluable, especially back. We've got a lot of young boys. As I say, we've got quite a young squad as well. It's a good mix of experienced boys in there. We've got a couple of boys like Chrissy Johnson, little winger, was at Kilmarnock and stuff. These are boys that we need to rely on. We've got centre half Stephen Swinglehurst. This is his testimonial season, so it's obviously a big game for him as well. He's been there with Annan in the cup games, Ibrox, etc. So he's experienced stuff. Scott Hooper at centre half with him as well. So these boys are massive with Greg for a lot of the younger boys round about them.
Yeah. You mentioned there Chris Johnson. I'm sure from social media, if I recall rightly, nicknamed the Hairy Haggis during his time at Kilmarnock as well. And Ben calling him Wee Messi just due to his tricky nature and his height as well. I suppose, again, in terms of when you come up against a Premiership team, you're looking for somebody to be that creative spark. I guess that will be what you guys are hoping from Chris on Tuesday night.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I just think Chris is one of the players, the higher a level you play against, he comes into his own. And he's one of the ones that gives you a breather as well. If we are under pressure, which you think Aberdeen will have us under a lot of pressure, he's a great out ball to get us up the pitch and get us in that final third. And hopefully, as I say, the little magician, we call him, hopefully can produce something.
Yeah, well, hopefully not in my case. But I suppose the other threat as well, when we're saying that you were wanting a good game from your keeper to keep you in the game, well, in the same respect that when we preview games going to Ibrox or Parkhead, when we need to be clinical, you guys will be hoping to be clinical if chances come around on Tuesday, and that falls to Tommy Goss, your 6'4" striker. Obviously, Aberdeen coming up against another kind of physical presence in Joel Newbley this weekend. Yeah. How important will Tommy be in terms of holding up the ball and then allowing the likes of Chris Johnson to bring you guys forward?
Tommy will be, as I say, it's like a Chris situation. When the ball's got up to these boys, they need to hold it for us and be that physical presence and allows that part. But we've got Tam Muir as well up front. There's another big physical presence. So we've got options up there. Aidan Smith is an absolute little powerhouse as well. So there's plenty of options up there, up top. But you're always looking for your strikers to score goals and try and get that little one through. But the boys I've just mentioned, I've absolutely no doubt they'll produce for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm sure, like you said, the game needs no motivation for your players, a sellout, a chance to impress against a Premiership team. I guess, you'll just be hoping that you guys more than hold your own.
Absolutely. As I say, we have nothing to lose. We are underdogs. All the pressure's on Aberdeen. But on the flip side, we want to do well. We want to progress in the cup as well. And we're not going out there thinking, we're going out there to have a go. We've done it at St Johnstone. We're unlucky not to win the game in the normal time. Had the post at the last minute. So we're going out there to win the match. And I'll be honest, there's no reason why we can't. No,
exactly. There's no reason why you can't. I'm just hoping you can't, in the nicest possible way, obviously. But John, absolute pleasure, and thank you very much for taking the time giving up your Friday evening to discuss a game on Tuesday. Good luck tomorrow against Albion Rovers. I won't wish you luck for Tuesday, but if I see you on Tuesday, I'll give you a shout, and all the best to yourself and Annan Athletic for the rest of the season as well.
Thank you very much. Take it easy.
That was John Connolly, the Annan goalkeeping coach, who joined me on Friday night to look ahead to tomorrow's game. Thanks to Kaiser, who says, I know my stuff. It helps having to do some research and have a bit of a quiet time on Friday lunchtime. You can tell I spend my time well. For those of you that aren't sure or didn't know what the Annan result was at the weekend, they drew 2-2 against Albion Rovers in that game, coming from behind twice. Tommy Goss equalising in the first half from the penalty spot before Benjamin Lusson, that's how I'm going to pronounce his second name, a player they signed from Queen of the South in the summer, grabbing a 92nd minute equaliser after Albion had taken the lead in the 91st minute. So some good team spirit shown by Annan there ahead of Tuesday's game. And I'm sure Phil, they'll take confidence, despite drawing the game, the fact that they had that fight back in them in that game, looking ahead to tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I mean, like John was saying, I mean, they've got absolutely nothing to lose. The players, they're just going to want to go out and sort of show themselves in a positive light. So I think having a positive result on the Saturday is only going to benefit them. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting tie. I think it'll be one of those classic, first sort of 10 minutes. I think it'll be us feeling out what the plan is. But no, I'm looking forward to it. Should be good fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to heading down the road. I'll be certainly putting in the miles this week. 436 mile round trip tomorrow, and then 232 on Saturday. For the weekend's trip to Ross County. One thing though, Phil, before we finish the episode today, is obviously we've spoken about squads, Aberdeen. Do you think with the transfer window closing on Thursday, if there are certain players missing from the squad, i.e. Marley Watkins, Conor McLennan, a certain player who might be tattooed on your leg?
Yeah, he shall not be named.
Yeah. Is there maybe some question marks around their future ahead of Thursday and the transfer window closing? Because, and also, where do you think Aberdeen need to strengthen between now and Thursday?
I think it's one of those things. I mean, maybe with the exception of McLennan, there are definitely boys that are, would probably like to see themselves in the team week in, week out. Like you mentioned, Watkins, Ramirez, Bates. They're going to be wanting to play football at this point in their career. McLennan maybe not so much, but I still could maybe see him going somewhere where he's going to get football, whether it's Premiership level. I don't know if he's proved himself at that level yet, so it might have to be the case of taking a step down and working his way back up. But I think there'll definitely be some outgoings. Hopefully not Ramirez for the sake of my sanity. But in terms of incomings, I think you'd mentioned earlier on about Goodwin saying one or two still to come potentially, which I would love to see more coming in. Where we're going to sign is anyone's guess. Personally, I'd like maybe see a little bit more depth in defence.
Yeah,
that's a little bit oversubscribed in midfield and in the wide areas now. So some sort of defensive cover would be appreciated, as we've seen with Coulson. I'm not trying to say injury prone, but definitely looks like there's the scope for him to be out for big parts of the season.
Yeah, but I suppose at a left back with Hayden, you've got Jack McKenzie there as cover, and I think it was Kaiser that mentioned in the comments about we can't really rest the defence because we've got nobody really to fill in. Really, only at centre back we've got Jack Milne as cover. So even if we got another, for me, I think defensive cover would be the priority, and the one or two coming in. And then I think it was Friend Wakali who replied to us on Twitter earlier saying that a more forward-minded player would be a luxury, and I think that would kind of really is a good assessment of what Thursday will bring. But our hope here on Red Tinted Glasses is to do another live on Thursday, looking back at the cup game against Annan, previewing, of course, the Premiership trip to Dingwall, and then discussing if there has been any signings, any outgoings, or any rumours. Just kind of like what we've done tonight. Jump on, do another live. A lot of you seem to have enjoyed the live tonight. Kaiser, thank you very much for your interaction. I hope you enjoyed Jeffrey DeVischer's appearance. That one really tickled me. So thank you to everyone who has either liked the show, subscribed during the show, and interacted. And for those of you that are catching up on audio, maybe tomorrow as well, hopefully this has helped pass some of the journey time towards Annan if you are listening pre-match as well. Thank you to you as well, Phil, for stepping in and ably filling Calum's shoes.
That's all right. It's a pleasure to be asked on again. And
at least, as we said, at least it's been a lot more positive to speak about. And you never know, we might even get you on Thursday night as well to get a third voice ahead of the transfer rumours that are going along. So thank you very much to everybody that joined in tonight, and thank you to those of you that continue to support the podcast through either audio or via YouTube. If you have been watching, even if it is on catch up, leave us a like, leave us a comment with your thoughts, and remember, wherever you're tuning in, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, Thank you very much.